Good morning, I'm Clint Walker and this is Real Estate Appraiser Secrets. And today we're going to talk about what information you should be giving your appraiser in your information packet on a listing. So first I want to let you know about how few agents actually bother to do this for me. If you've ever been to one of my appraisal classes, I usually figure this number somewhere around 5% of agents actually interacting with me, which would be, bothering to call me before I do the appraisal inspection, leaving me comparable sales or any information at the appraisal inspection. The number is really, really low. And I think part of that is agents feeling like they've done a good job pricing the property and that there just can't possibly be any problems. And another part of that is there are appraisal management companies and some lenders probably that discourage listing agents from trying to give us sales or interact with the appraiser at all. And there are a lot of agents out there who have had bad interactions with appraisers in the past where the appraiser has just refused to talk to them or look at any of their information. Because some appraisers are operating with this idea that any interaction with the agent sort of taints their objectivity because the agents involved are not objective and their purpose is to not be objective about the property. And so some appraisers feel like they can't interact with them for that reason at all. I think that's a mistake. I think I've said it in a lot of other videos that the influencing our opinion of value is pretty narrowly defined as attempting to bribe us or telling us the value that you want us to give the property. Those are pretty much it as defined by the powers that be. So simply giving us information or telling us how great the property is or telling us how crummy some of the other sales in the area are should not be defined as attempting to influence our opinion of value. You're advocating for your property, and that should be okay. The appraiser ought to be made of stern enough stuff to form an opinion of value in spite of your best marketing efforts. Even reading the MLS sheet is going to convey an attempt to persuade. So, I don't know, I just find that to be a flimsy excuse for refusing to deal with agents. So, for whatever reason, for all those reasons, and probably some others, very few agents attempt to interact with me, and I'm one of the really nice ones. So, it's sort of a problematic phenomenon. And the reality is, I would really love to get that information from the agents because, two heads are better than one. More eyes looking for comparable sales are valuable, and agents have a unique perspective on the whole market that appraisers just don't get. Appraisers get a broad and analytical and sometimes a more in-depth view of the market than an agent because, an agent who does a lot of deals is probably looking at 40 deals a year would be a lot of deals for an agent. And those could be spread out across a large geographical area, whereas an appraiser probably looks at 40 deals a month, and 40 a month would be a relatively high volume for a single appraiser. So, you can imagine, and those all might be in a small geographical area. So an appraiser could have an in-depth knowledge of an area, but it's still not the same as the interaction that an agent has with the actual buyers and sellers in the market whose actions we are trying to analyze. So there really is a great argument and a need for cooperation between these two industries to understand what the buyers and sellers are negotiating on, what buyers are demanding, what sellers are offering, and that sort of thing. When I'm in a market looking at a niche product or looking at a niche sort of property, and I have questions about what buyers are going to do, my source of information for that is probably going to be the agent who I think knows that market the best. I'm going to call them and interview them and talk to them about exactly what I just mentioned. What are buyers looking for? What are you seeing on a daily basis? That's the information that starts to go to inform what I do and what I report on in my appraisal. So it's really, really important for agents to attempt to get their information to the appraiser in any given deal. When I'm acting as an agent in a deal, I never, ever, ever assume that the appraiser is going to come along and see things the way that I see them. I just feel like that is a super unsafe assumption because of the way I know other appraisers. And so, that's coming from the perspective of someone who knows exactly how that appraiser ought to be going about choosing comps, and I'm going to choose my comps the exact same way. And from someone who's got deep experience pricing properties and valuing properties, I never feel comfortable assuming that the appraiser behind me is going to have the same opinion of value as me. And so I always make sure to give them my close sales. I never let it go. The only time that I would let it go is if I was comfortable for some reason, which would be based on a conversation with my client, comfortable for some reason, letting that value not come in at my contract price. Maybe that's strategic to my deal, okay? Again, that's a conversation I've had with my client to make that decision. Otherwise, every single time I am in front of my appraiser, whether in written communication or physically in person, interacting with them to try to get what I want done. And so I want to convey all that to you because I would like to see every one of you making it a point to, if you're the listing agent, it's a little bit easier because the appraiser should be calling you to schedule that site inspection that they're going to do. And that's the opportunity that I want you to take to say to them, hey, could I send you the sales I use to price this property? Could I send you the list of improvements that my buyer made or my seller made to the property since they've owned it or in the last year? And get that information to them. I want you to your first contact, try to make it sound, everything you're saying, try to keep it as even and objective as you possibly can, because they know you're not an objective party. But if you can present this to them in an objective way, that will only help you. And then if you see right then in that interaction that they are friendly and willing to talk to you and don't seem to have their guard up about being persuaded by you, take it a step further, and then you could start talking in a sort of a persuasive way about the great things about the property, trying to elevate their experience and their opinion of the improvements. You could also try to, if you've got some bad comps around, like maybe a comp that sold in a divorce and it's not listed or talked about in the public comments on the MLS, but maybe that sale, they just gave the house away essentially because the two sellers were going through something and need to get out of it. You can convey that information to the appraiser, and that would be information we'd want to have if we couldn't find it any other way. So the actual physical information I'd like you to get to them are the sales that you use to price the property. Conversely, if you're on the buyer side, which I sometimes am, and I still do this on the buyer side, I get the appraiser the sales that my buyer and I were looking at before we made our offer, okay? And this is all just trying to let them know about the information, and I'm getting a phone call right now, you can probably hear it, the information that you all use to make your decision. And you'll be doing yourself a favor if you give them sort of a smattering of sales that are also more expensive. Maybe they're generally comparable to the subject property, but more expensive. And so if they're bigger and more expensive, your appraiser can adjust those down. And some smaller properties that are a little bit cheaper, but not too much cheaper, your appraiser is going to adjust those up. So you can sort of present them with an array of sales that that they can adjust using appraisal techniques that sort of fit your property right in the middle of them. And that's sort of the ideal situation. You can give them your market analysis, but agents don't really analyze the market the way that appraisers do. But if you know that, things are just booming, houses aren't sitting on the market, there's more buyers than there are listings, that's all good information that they'd like to have from you. And they're going to do that. They're going to be looking at that sort of thing themselves in every single report. And then your list of upgrades that your people have done. Especially think of these things as capital improvements, material upgrades. Paint doesn't get you much or anything. Paint's not really a material improvement, even though it is expensive to do. But we're talking about kitchens and baths and light fixtures, adding on decks and patios, big physical things that they've done to the property is what we really want to know about. And then what else? Last but not least, that's most of it, but answer your call. Be willing to talk to them on the phone. Just offer yourself up if they have any questions. And with the whole goal of just trying to make them feel as good about talking to you and as easy about talking to you as they possibly can. So I hope that's helpful. I hope you have a great week. If I can be of service to you, you can find me on appraiserpool.com for appraisals, professional measurements, and consultations. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.